thing? Because like, what are like the best practice? Do we create a separate commit, or like do we amend to it? And does it work if like we try to amend, then push again to that branch?
Okay, very good question. Thank you for asking. And I started recording just for the sake of record. I will repeat the question again and immediately answer. Okay. So the question was, what's the process when someone suggests changes in your pull request? Should we create another commit or just amend? Right? That was the question.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the I would say there is two parts in the answer for this question, like absolutely must have and optional. So must have, when someone asks for any changes in a pull request, you should stay in the same branch that you used to create this pull request and commit the changes to the same branch. This means pull request will be automatically updated once you push. So you should not, what you should not do for sure, you should not create a new branch trying to make these changes. You should not close the pull request. You should commit to the same branch, push, and pull request will be updated with the latest changes. The second part, optional, whether to use amend or create an extra commit, it depends. It depends on your preference. It depends on how sometimes team members agree on these things, but both of these options are good. Both of these options will work perfectly well. The amend will give you slightly more clear history, but from the other hand, maybe you would like to track the history of fixing this pull request, change request in this pull request, and maybe separate commit will make sense. So it always depends. So once you've more into this, you will understand it for yourself, like what's more convenient for you, what better option you prefer. That's more like about personal preference also. And another thing, amend always requires force push, and sometimes in some certain setups, but it's more again like team agreement and processes. In some cases, force push is either not allowed or pull request automatically closed when it's force pushed. So it depends. Maybe it's better to avoid amend if there are these types of things set up there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for explaining that, because I tried the amend, and when I tried to push, I got an error, and apparently it was because I didn't use push force.
Yes.
That was like wasn't
Exactly.
like allowing me to
That's
push.
right. So let
Yes.
me explain a little more about amend. Amend is needed, for example, when you made a spelling mistake or you forgot to add a comma somewhere, right? In order not to write this like silly and stupid commit, oh, I fixed that, I misspelled that, I corrected that, right? In order to have our commit being like a unit of some meaningful change, and if we already pushed it, yeah, we can amend it and force push, like override. But again, for this to work, the branch you're pushing to, you should have permissions to do force push. So you cannot amend commits in main usually because it is protected, right? Okay, yeah, let's then start. I hope we'll have some time a little later to have general discussions, but for today we have quite a lot to do, and I don't even know would we be able to make this all happen. So I have 4 tasks for today. First one is to launch an instance. Launch our, I wouldn't say like first EC2 instance, we already launched instances, but this time we will automate it completely. So let me do this. So who can tell me what would be our first step? Come on, guys, the group is really small. There is no reason to hesitate. You can just
So,
unmute yourself and start talking.
okay, the first step would be like to check out the main and then get pull, and then
Yeah.
create the Terraform file.
Yes,
for
that's right. Never forget to start a branch properly. I'm already on main, but I will anyways do git checkout main. I can also do git reset and git pull. Now we create a new branch, calling EC2 instance, and we can start. We can start. So how will we usually do? So probably we will open our editor and create a new file. Let's call it instance.tf. So you already encountered this, and there were questions asked before, but now we have proper context to repeat this. You can create unlimited number of TF files in your Terraform folder, and Terraform will pick up all of them and automatically apply them in a proper order. So everything that's with TF extension in your Terraform folder automatically will be applied by Terraform. Okay, so let's go to the browser tab and search the documentation, Terraform AWS EC2. And there is a resource called AWS instance. The process is really easy. We will skip kind of advanced parts. So network and credit specification. Yeah, this one is a perfect example. AWS instance full with the AMI. Okay, let's have it T3. It will help us a lot. So instead of network interface and CPU credit specification, we will use something else. Let's check which parameters we are allowed to specify. AMI, public IP. So probably the first one will be public instance. So we will need these parameters set to true. Availability zone, we don't need it. Capacity, CPU core, credit specification, EBS. I'm looking for VPC or subnet ID because if we want to launch an instance, we need to do this in our VPC that we've previously created. And also we will need key name. Key name is for SSH key that we provide, so we can connect to it via SSH. In my case, it's this called main. Launch template, maintenance, monitoring, network placement, private IP, secondary security groups. Okay, very interesting. So when we created the instance via user interface, we had this option where Amazon asks us whether we want to create new from scratch or specify existing one. And if we don't specify anything, it will omit and create a new one for us. In Terraform, most likely, like 99% of times, we need to specify everything explicitly and also explicitly define the security group that we will need to use. Security group. Also, we will add tags. So let's steal it from our previous example. And probably it will be something like env code -public. And let's also choose a meaningful name here. Instead of foo, it will be public as well. What else do we have? Security group, tenancy default tag, user data, not yet needed. VPC security group ID. Actually, yeah, very important moment. And completely forgot about that. We are running in a VPC, and here is a note about that. If we're creating instances in a VPC, we should use VPC security group IDs instead of security groups IDs. Kind of, there is a legacy option. It's not available now, called classic VPC. There, we didn't have too much control over networking and routing, and all instances were public by default. And there were security group IDs. But in case of our own custom VPC, we need VPC security group IDs. It's completely different parameter. I'm not able to find it that way. Let me just search for it. It should be subnet. Yeah, here it is, subnet ID. No, that's not the one. Yeah, subnet ID, optional. VPC subnet to launch in. Copy. Subnet ID. Subnet ID should be AWS subnet public at 0.id. And security group. Let's create a separate resource for security group. And also call it public. Same strategy here. Actually, it doesn't matter which resource you're creating, in which provider, in which cloud. The strategy is simple. When you need to write something, you open documentation, you read it, decide what options you need, what options you don't need, and create proper code. Okie dokie. Now let's search for AWS security group. Sometimes this internal search doesn't work good enough. And 99% of cases, we can just steal this example of basic usage and just slightly modify it. Let's call it public name. Public hello. They already have VPC called main and open port 22. Description SSH from my public IP. IPv6, we don't need it. And CIDR block should be the public IP, my public IP. Do you guys need any explanation about how to find out what's your public IP? I believe I believe that's still a kind of good idea. One second. So there are different things. There is public IP and internal private IP. If you go to and show and run IP address, if you just go here and type ifconfig, for example, right, and try to search for your IP address of your network interface here. So let me bring it up. 127. Oh, that it's too many. Sorry. Some IPv6 things. Okay, yeah, let's assume this one. Yes, 10.14.02, right? That's your internal IP address that's assigned to you by your router. After that, there is a chain. A router has its own private IP assigned by a provider. It is used technology of, you're already familiar with it, it is using NAT, which means public IP is the top level IP that communicates globally and routable to the open internet. You just type my public IP. I need to prove that I'm not a robot. 1 second. And here it is. That's mine. Copy it, and we can paste it here. /32. That's it. This means when some bad person wants to hack our instance, and hijack it and mine bitcoins there, he or she will be able to do so only if they're sitting like in the same office building or apartment building as we. This means the probability of being hacked, of being attacked, is being significantly lowered. Always remember to change your inbound security groups to only your IP address. And in fact, let's declare it as a variable. It will be more convenient for us. My public IP. These things are obvious. We already covered variables, so I didn't spend time explaining what I'm doing. I just instead of hard coded, replaced these with the variable. Also, one more thing that I haven't shown you before. Actually, I had a separate task for that, but I believe it's not worth like demonstrating and showing. So, do you think we can improve somehow these 6 lines? Something. Yes, Fadia, please. No need to raise hands. Just jump into conversation. That's okay.
Yes, like maybe to improve the code, instead of like adding the AMI as it is and the instance type, we can transform it into variables. So like we can change it in the future without changing this code or coming back to this code.
Okay. You bring up another interesting question. Actually, that's not what I wanted to highlight, but let me tell you this. When you add a variable, it should be used in more than one place. And I have changed these two variables because there will be my code and there will be your code where will be completely different value. And your IP might change often, but these things not very often changed. But can you tell me this? What's the difference between these lines and let's say these lines or these lines? Do you notice anything in how they are written?
Is it like the format? Like the formatting of the
Exactly.
code?
Yes, that's right. And actually, this one is not quite right. They should be aligned like this. And there shouldn't be these empty spaces. Yes, equal signs are aligned. And it's generally good practice to keep this in mind and always make sure equal signs are aligned within the same block. So this should be aligned, these should be aligned between each other, but for example, this and this should not be aligned because there is an empty new line between them. And what we can do is, actually, we don't even have to manually put these white spaces here. We can just get back to our terminal and run Terraform FMT. And it will format everything, like everywhere automatically for us. You already can see that it has changed. And there is one more thing that we need to change. We need to change our AMI. This one is for US West 2. Our region, at least my region, is US East. And let's change the AMI. I have it saved. 1 second. Let me bring it up. Yes, that's the one. And later we will also select more robust and reusable way of specifying AMI. Okay, now we can launch our first EC2 instance.
I have a question regarding Terraform init. Like,
Yes.
when do we know when we should run it, and when do we know is it safe to run directly Terraform apply?
It is always safe to run Terraform apply. Terraform init, we need to run it either when backend is changing or when we remove, for some reason, this .terraform folder. Why it asks me to run Terraform init? Because I before starting this session, while I was preparing, I removed this folder completely and cloned it again, and there was no this .terraform folder in the remote repository.
I see. So it's not like every time we add a TF file, we have to run it to
No,
run Terraform
no, no,
init.
no. Every time we add new provider,
Okay.
every time we add new provider or every time we change new provider, for example, or also when we add new module. So usually you can follow the following rule, at least for now. If it asks you to run Terraform init, 99% probability that you just need to run it as it asks, and that's it.
Okay. I have a question regarding the security group declaration that we did in Terraform. There's the block that's Ingress and the block that's egress. I know that like security groups are stateful, so we don't have like to define like to get the response back. The first block, I understand like the function of it. We can see from port 22 to port 22, TCP, the protocol. What is the function of the lower? What does it do exactly? The egress.
Egress. Okay, yeah.
What?
So you said it right when you said security group is stateful. So when we establishing TCP connection, it's both request and response, right? And stateful means it will track the initial request, and we don't have to explicitly allow or create allow rule that will allow it to respond, right, on the same port. So this means if we want to initiate connections, it's just enough to open port 22. But egress is required so the instance itself can talk to the internet from within and initiate connections from within the VPC, like when it needs to connect to internet itself, when it needs to download updates. These rules should be there. And I can even demonstrate this to you in a moment while after it created. I will show you both with this egress rule how it behaves and without this egress rule.
Okay, I see. And the -1 for the protocol, what's like the
-1 means all protocols: TCP,
all
UDP,
protocols?
ICMP, like everything.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Okay, and you know what? In order for me not to go to the AWS console all the time, we haven't yet declared it, haven't yet used it. Um, what you guys think it means? What you think will happen when we run Terraform apply again after adding this? No ideas?
The public IP assigned to the new instance will be shown in the console.
Yes, correct. Very good. I simply don't want to click around and go to AWS interface. I'd rather... One second. Something is not good here. Just a moment. Okay. Yeah, my bad. We created the security group but forgot to assign it over here. Let's try running it again, but most likely it will not allow us to do so, and error out. But let's anyway try. And it's not IP, it's ID. Actually, it worked. Very good. Very cool. Yeah. So we have an instance created and we have a public IP, and we can easily connect to it. Okay, So first thing, let me show you how security group work, in case you're not aware. Let's say we do not allow the ingress rule. Let's comment it out and apply. Let me also have one more terminal so it's easier. No changes. Okay, then let me switch these to some garbage IP, which is not my public IP. And when we attempt to SSH again, it is timing out because there is no firewall rule that allows to talk on port 22. This means this ingress rule is taken into account. Let's return it and run Terraform apply again. And see one more time what will happen then. Okay, and we start the connection one more time. It works. So always remember, if the console, the session is not telling you anything and just hanging, most likely, or giving you the timeout error, most likely it's firewall. You don't even the system don't even start exchanging SSH and access secret key, and there is no need to check your username or SSH key if it's timing out. Always remember that. Okay, yeah, and I also promised you to show you how egress work. So now if we run ping, we can see that it can talk with Google.com, for example, right? I will leave it and have it run indefinitely. And in the meantime, I will remove the egress rule and run Terraform apply again. I still don't understand why it is not allowing me simply to comment it out. Let's try that way. Let me read up real quick about how to properly disable egress. 1 second. Or maybe, yeah, maybe we can just remove all CIDR blocks. Like this. Let's try this way. Yeah. Now it is offering us the change, and it will remove the permission to talk to entire internet. Let's try again. And you see it's no longer work. It is timing out. That's the reason why egress is needed to allow instance to initiate outside connections. And let's return it back. So usually egress always pointed to the internet without any limitation, unless you have some special security requirements. And immediately after I applied, it started to work. That's how egress works. That's why we need it. Okay. Next thing, let's create one more instance and call it like private. Private. We don't need to associate public IP address anymore. Let's have it in a separate security group and in a private subnet. And also let's define also private security group as well. Private, 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 and SSH should be allowed only from VPC. We have, I believe, variable for that, VPC seeder. And it will be var dot VPC TIDR. Simple as that. And also rename it to private. And also align these equal signs. So our formatting is good. And we can run Terraform apply. And in the meantime, I will also adjust our output and also as well provide private IP that we can use to connect to our instance. And we apply it once again. Very good. Now we can SSH from here. So, but unfortunately, we have an error. And it is slightly different from what we've seen previously. What could be the issue in this case? And keep in mind, before answering this question, this error is different. That's not a timeout.
Permission was denied because we didn't use the agent forwarding. So
Yes.
we don't have the key to log into the private
Yes,
instance.
exactly. We did not use agent forwarding. We did not specify any SSH key that might have been saved in this instance. Yes, exactly. Let's restart it with agent forwarding and run SSH again. And now it works. If we, for example, like mess up our username, it will give us permission denied. So you always should remember. So if it's permission denied, this means authentication. This means you need to check your keys, agent forwarding, username, and so on. If it's request timeout, like we've seen before, you should check your firewall trying to authenticate through SSH. Cool. Very cool. Very good. Let's run git status, git add main.tf, git add terraform tf vars, git add variables tf, git add instance.tf, and git add outputs.tf. And we can commit. And also terraform tf vars. And we can push. And create a pull request. And also, I forgot to add so-called trailing new line. When you see this do not enter sign on GitHub, this means the file is not ending with this /n at the end. Linux systems are reading the files in the proper way, and it's generally also a best practice to always end your file with an empty line. And also, this you might not remember how we changed that, but this is what Terraform FMT did for us automatically. That's why it's also committed. We create a pull request, assume Geoffrey will approve it, but let's not waste the time for now for it, and merge it. Now there is one more thing that that draws my attention and bothers me that I would like to show you as well. Probably you've already went through this during code review. I remember Geoffrey suggested to a couple of you guys this thing is when we run git status, we see these files, right? And they should not be in Git. And we should not have opportunity to, for example, accidentally add them when we run something like that, right? So what we need to do is create a git ignore file. So Git will simply not pay attention to these files and not consider them when working with command line. We just need to mention the file names. And when we run git status again, you see these files are no longer displayed. Just git ignore that we just modify it, and which is obviously noticed by the Git itself. And we can commit git ignore to the repository itself. Let's create a branch. No, let's pull. Let's create a branch. We can add .git ignore. We can commit. Push and also create a pull request. And we only have 10 minutes, I believe. I don't know. I think no, probably yes. Probably we can do one more small task, and but the remaining two will be for the next session then. So what I will do is first I will destroy the existing infrastructure, and let's say create a copy, so we don't have to wait while it is destroying, but in a different region. Okay, and open it in VS Code as well. So there should not be TF state. It's a new region. And in our provider, hold on a second. Where is our provider configuration? Okay. We're using default region. Completely forgot. Sorry for that. So let me then add some additional configuration on top of that. 1 second. Adding this string will redirect our code to any region that we would like to specify. And let's run Terraform init and Terraform apply again. And also change something in our network config. An error. Why it is happening? Does anyone have any ideas?
We changed the region. We should change as well the image ID.
That is correct. The image ID is regional, and every time we change region, we should specify different AMI. Exactly the same but vice versa, that I did when switching from US West 2 to US East 1. We need to change this value. But the question is, how can we do this without having to change this AMI ID every time, without having to hard code this, even without a variable? Let me do this. I will write this code, this piece of code for you, and you guys will try to guess what it will do. And let me order it so you better see it. Does any one of you have ideas what this piece and this line will do instead?
I will search for the AMI that corresponds to our current region automatically, because I see we have specialized filters like virtualization type, HAV, and like the name of the kernel
Yes.
and owner's ID. So it kind of generates it and search in like some sort of a database for IWS to get the equivalent of this, what we have specified for the previous region, the equivalent for it in this region, our current region.
Yes. Totally right. Absolutely correct. So in Terraform, there are resources and data sources. Data source is like a query to the provider. We provide set of filters like give me the name that corresponds to this condition and virtualization type this corresponds to this condition and owned by this account. And it will return when we connect to it, just like to any other resource, the most up-to-date version of AMI for this particular region, and doesn't matter which region we deploy. Also, I had to change these variables, right? Availability zones. We can also obtain the list of availability zones as well without having to hard code it. We can use a separate data source. 1 second. Data availability zones. One more query, this time completely different. So this one, we no longer need it. And regarding our networking setup, where we have our availability zones, instead of var availability zone, we should have data availability zone over here and over here. And I hope it will be also A and B, otherwise it will not match. But yeah, let's anyways try. And also let's remove it from variables.tf as well. I haven't saved something. Yeah, this data source. And I forgot something. 1 second. That's the specified parameter, and also for our private instance as well. And run Terraform apply again. And now does not matter which region we will use. Yeah, this will be the last thing that I'll demonstrate to you today. Let's destroy and recreate it in US East 1. And it will automatically create everything without us having to make any adjustments at all. Only thing that we will change is the region. And data source is very important concept, and we will use it even further in our next configurations. So I strongly suggest that you pay attention and read more about this. I will share some links with you guys afterwards in our shared chat. But for now, let's just wait until it is destroyed, and we will see this data source deal in action. Are you guys still able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So then I will change the region once again, where it was. We can actually have it as a variable. And I hope, fingers crossed, when we run Terraform apply, it will work just fine. Yes. Yeah, it read this data source and it is creating it in the required place. So yeah, while it is applying, I believe it's a perfect time to wrap this up and time for you guys to ask any types of questions that you might have till up to today. Yeah, and sure, one more thing. Once it's applied, I will obviously commit it and create a separate pull request for this change as well. Okay, then, if there is nothing else to discuss, I've demonstrated you exactly half of what I planned. But yeah, then stay tuned for the next week, and looking forward to seeing your pull requests.